Well, we live in a world where the general population perceive everything to be solid and everything to be apart from everything else, when actually we are living in a reality that is very much akin to Wi-Fi and computers. I've been calling the body for a very long time a biological computer. And if you think we're in this hotel now, and in this room, therefore, will be Wi-Fi. But where is it? You can't see it. And if you said to people who didn't know about computers that there was a series of fields, radiation fields of information in this room, which you can tap into anywhere in the world if you have the right technology, and you can put on the screen the same worldwide reality anywhere in the world, people would say you were crazy. The first thing they'd say is, well, where is it? Can't see it. But because people now know about computers and they know about Wi-Fi, when you say that to people, they say, yeah, Wi-Fi, computers, yeah, I know about that. But the only difference is between that's crazy and yeah, I know about that, is knowledge. Knowledge of computers and knowledge of Wi-Fi. If people didn't have that knowledge, they would write off and dismiss an explanation of what exists, but they don't realize exists and can't perceive that it exists. And it's the same with our reality. You know, if you look at a computer, what is it doing? It's taking waveform information and it's decoding it, and it's taking electrical information, electromagnetic information, and it's decoding it into a reality on the screen. Because if you said to people, tell me about the internet, they'd say, well, it's graphics and moving pictures and words on the screen. Well, yes, it is, but only on the screen, nowhere else. Everywhere else, the internet is a completely different form. And what I've been saying, and I've been researching this now for 30 years, is that we live in an energetic sea of information, and it operates on a waveform level. And just as the computer decodes Wi-Fi, so we're decoding that. And you can see that through the five senses, because what the five senses are doing is taking waveform information, it's turning it into electrical information, it's communicating that to the brain, and then the brain constructs that into what I say is digital holographic information. And that digital holographic level of reality is this. It's the world we perceive to be outside of us, but it's not. You think about the internet. Where is the internet? On a computer. It's inside the computer. We're just viewing it. And what we're basically doing is the same. And if you think about sound, classic example, but all the five senses work the same way, but classic, the ears are picking up sound waves, waveform, turning it into electrical information and communicating it to the brain. Because as I'm speaking, people hearing it only hear it when that process has happened. Only when the information electrically reaches the brain do people hear me speak. It's quite an amazing thing, really, to see the reality that people perceive themselves to be experiencing against what it really is. For instance, if you ask the question, does a falling tree make a noise? Well, of course it does. Well, actually, it doesn't. Falling tree doesn't make a noise. What it does as it falls on an energetic waveform level is it disturbs the energetic field. It creates a waveform disturbance. That disturbance is picked up by the ears, communicated to the brain electrically, and the brain then decodes that into the sound of a tree falling. But if no one's there to be the decoder of that waveform disturbance, then a falling tree doesn't make a noise. Now, and you know, if you know how reality works, you know it's malleable, you know that perception is the key to dictating what reality we experience, then you don't want the population to know that. Because you knowing that and how it works and how we decode reality and how we create our own experience through the perceptions that we have, that is your enormous point of power. You don't want the population knowing that. You want them to think this is all solid, because what does solidity mean? It means limitation. Once you think you live in a solid world, what you're saying is, I can't, it's not possible all the time. Which, if the world was solid, it would be impossible. But it's not, and this cabal knows that. And so it's quite a thought that you look at all these television channels now. I mean, when I first grew up, there was, as a kid, there was only the BBC, not even BBC Two, BBC. That's all there was. But now you've got all these channels and all these mainstream outlets. How many times do you see a program looking into the nature of reality?
Never.
I mean, so that's a question immediately. Why is that? I mean, why aren't we pursuing in the mainstream media where the hell we are and what this is? But it doesn't happen, except rarely and in some minor channels. And it's because we if we know that, then we can start to use that knowledge to create our reality rather than reality creating us. Because perception is everything, and that's why this whole conspiracy is about downloading to people their perception of reality. If you think of perception, it's the middle point. First of all, your perception of something, your perception of life, your perception of self, dictates your behavior. All behavior comes from perception. If I see a situation in a certain way, then I will behave towards that situation in a certain way. If I see it a different way, I'll behave differently. Everything is perception. Then you go back from perception and you think, where does perception come from? It comes from information received. That's what it is. We form our perceptions from information. Anything from a personal experience to a newspaper or a Facebook post. And therefore, once you start to realize these connections, you start to realize what this increasingly outrageous, extreme censorship is of information that's challenging all the norms, whatever it is, vaccine norms, political norms, whatever. It's because if you want to impose the perceptions of the population, thus dictate their behavior and their responses in a way that suits you, then you must control the information they receive, which will then form their perceptions. You don't want all these other people coming in and saying, actually, there is another way of looking at this, because that would challenge the perception that you want them to have. And that's why we're having all this censorship now.
Yeah.
It's systematic, and these internet giants like Facebook and Google and YouTube, owned by Google, Alphabet, its parent company, and Amazon, and all these people, they are organizations that have been systematically created as monopolies in their area of operation. So you can go through a very simple sequence of how we got here and how we've been hoaxed. In this sense, first of all, the internet was the creation of an organization called DARPA. The technology was military technology. DARPA is the technological development arm of the Pentagon. Very, very sinister organization that gives us death rays and ever new, more efficient ways of killing people. And also gave us the office assistance technology, by the way. Seed funded them. Why would a military arm of the Pentagon want to have these office assistants, this Echo and Alexa stuff in people's homes? Well, we might come to that because there is a reason. Anyway, the idea from the start was that the internet had to become a central pillar of human society to a point where it was irreversible, because this whole technological society of control, which we can get into, is founded on the internet. This is where you get the Internet of Things with, billions of gadgets and technologies and fridges and cars and televisions now connected to the internet. And to get the internet to that point where it becomes the central pillar of human society, which it has become, you can't have the internet we have now with all the censorship, because people say, oh, stuff that, not having that. So we went through a period when the internet was first launched of free flow of information, no censorship, say what you like. Now, that had to happen for the internet to become so much part of people's lives that it became this central point. But there was a downside to that period, which was the free flow of information. And what happened, of course, in that period, as I know myself, is that another or multiple other versions of possibility, reality, world events, everything, were able to be communicated, and vast numbers of people saw this new way of looking at things and went, whoa, this makes more sense than what I've been told all my life. So we've now reached the point where the internet is the central pillar of human society.